This is our big talk for the day. I'm Mago.
I'm King Arthur.
I'm Waddy McFly.
And today we're going to be talking about how we got started doing what we're doing now. Acting, video games, just in that whole realm of nerdy awesomeness. And go.
Oh, I'll start. Ever since I was a youngin', I enjoyed to make people laugh. Even when the nativity scene, I remember when I was a kid.
Oh no.
We would put on the nativity scene in my grandparents' living room, but everyone would get tired of doing it, so I would just take over. And I played every character, including the baby Jesus. And throw in Old MacDonald Had a Farm every once in a while in there. So yes, after the nativity scene deal, I remember my grandpa gave us this really old, big, like this big
beard.
Beard. You're gonna start that again, aren't you? Camera. And what I would do is I take the camera and take my Legos and I make little stop motion things and I'd light them on fire and blow them up and yeah, and I take my little, I had this big castle and I take my little action figures and like fight, and then my cats would come and steal my stuff, and I'm like, and eventually I moved that to people, and I used to make this video with this skateboarder kid named Alex. He was a spy who went and infiltrated the space, which was my house, and the evil like guy behind it all was my little brother, who was maybe 8 or 9 at the time. But yeah, I always liked to make people laugh, and eventually that got to improv. I'll make this long story short. I'll jump to college now. Not college, high school. I'll jump to high school. I loved Whose Line Was It Anyway? I loved that show. Thought it was a great show in the world. I used to make my friends play Whose Line Is It Anyway? Didn't know that you could actually do that, and my high school had an improv team, and I was like, that's what that's called, make people laugh in Whose Line? And I was in plays like growing up, but improv and like plays really seemed the way to go. And then I met a good friend of mine. You may know him as Jimmy Bush. That was terrifying. Not the meaning Jimmy, but he sneezed. Jimmy was a funny fellow, and I thought he should do improv. So I was like, Jimmy, you should be on the improv team. And he said, I'm not funny enough. And I was like, Jim, just come to the improv team. So we did the improv thing. He eventually got into the drama as well, and then we started doing plays together. We did Arsenic and Old Lace together. We decided, hey, you know what? We own cameras. We own lights. Let's make a production team. And we moved in together. We moved in an apartment together, but no homo. And not there's anything wrong with that, Arthur. And then, so then we...
I'm totally straight. I'm very single with that.
His He Harmed Me account will appear right here. No. We created J-WAT, J-WAT Productions, and the reason why it's called J-WAT is because J for Jimmy and Watt for Watson.
What?
J-WAT?
Okay. We entered into this contest for free LASIK eye surgery from Hoops, and we made like this film noir thing. You can find it on the channel if you really want to look back to like one of the very first videos.
You should go back to their river dancing video.
Yeah, and then we did that, entered into that competition. We won. We won Jimmy's sister, LASIK, who needed it pretty bad. And yeah, and then we just kept going from there. Eventually we got our own studio, and eventually we started making commercials for local companies, and we've even got as far as we made a video for Skull Candy, and that was really awesome. Yeah, we've been making movies, and we're going to keep making movies, and zombies have always been one of my favorite genres, so I'm excited to release that out to everybody.
Your turn.
My turn. Okay.
Hold it up.
Who is it? Okay. My story. Well, so one of my earliest memories, and my parents tell me this story because I don't remember it fully, but I do remember as a young child, and I'm probably about 3 or 4 at this time, and basically for an entire year I didn't talk at all. I just stopped talking. I guess it was really rough time for me. But one day, and this is the part I remember, I just remember this loud noise suddenly, and then I run down and I see that, we got our first computer and they were playing Doom on this computer, and it was amazing, and it was like super like loud and realistic and violent and awesome and all sorts of ways. And so yeah, and then apparently after that I would never stop talking. So yeah. If your kids aren't talking, you should let them play Doom. But,
and then they never stop.
Doom. We're in your space, so you tell us.
Doom is freaking awesome.
Yeah! I want to tell another story. It's, and this is so funny because it just, how things don't always turn out how you expect them to, but sometimes they just do. I remember when I was in first grade, they asked everyone, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I said, I want to make movies. And everyone laughed. And I don't know if they were laughing at me, but it was just like, oh, that's whatever. I don't know. And I never explored that again until high school, when I kind of spur of the moment decided to take a filmmaking class. And then I kind of remembered just I don't know, it just all sort of happened. And then I started making movies again.
Well, funny thing you mentioned about, I like what you said, the kids laughing at you, because not that I like that, but me when I was a kid, when I was about that age, I wanted to be an oceanographer, and I wanted to be an archaeologist, but I realized I wanted to be an oceanographer because of Jaws, and I realized I wanted to be an archaeologist because of Indiana Jones, but it never really clicked into my mind, holy crap, I can actually make these things. That's why I want to do all those things, because I want to make these things. So maybe that's why the kids laughed, is they're like, haha, you silly man, you can't make Land Before Time. No one does that. That just happens. God just goes, here you go.
Mommy, where do movies come from?
I'll tell you when you're older.
Wow,
That was a very
deep voice.
Yeah.
Have you met his mother?
So I started acting at age 9, completely involuntarily. My mother forced me to be in the 4th grade play, which was The Little Mermaid. I was like, so. I didn't want to do it. I literally was in tears. I was begging and pleading her not to make me do this. And each parent had to pay $20 to cover the costs of the costumes and the props and the set and things like that. And so I remember she brought this little red envelope to school, and she dropped me off with the $20 in it, and she's like, here, give this to your teacher. And I was like, nope, not doing that. Don't want to. And she made me do it. Because mothers have a way of making you do things you don't want to do. And so I'm terrified, and I go to the audition, and it's so bad. So we're on stage, and there's 4 rows of kids, and each one has to say a line, just right down the row, super easy. Nothing like high school auditions where it's actually scary. I can't even remember what the line was, but I wouldn't say it. I stood there in front of an auditorium full of kids that were waiting, and their parents and stuff, because it was after school. And I just stood there and wouldn't say it, and I kept getting scared, and it kept getting worse and worse until eventually I started crying in front of everyone. And my sister is sitting in the audience like this. Cause she was, even now, only a few months ago, she's like, I was embarrassed for you. And I'm like, I'm embarrassed now, even thinking about it. But the teacher had to stand in front of me, and I'm facing the audience, so she's facing me, and she's like, just say it to me. Just say it to me. And I couldn't say it, so I walked off the stage that day without saying anything. I might have whispered 1 or 2 words, but that was about it. But then after that, do you want to hear the part that I got?
Yes.
During Under the Sea, I beat the drum.
Yeah!
Very hard.
Little drummer.
The whole time.
Yeah, method acting.
Not my proudest moment, but then that's when I decided that I wanted a bigger part every single time. And so then the next year we did The Lion King, and I was a hyena. And then every single play after that I got a bigger part until eventually I started doing leads in high school and then things like that. So that was awesome. Started out from fear, and then I think it was either my stubbornness or my willpower to start doing it better. So I started out hating this, and now it's just what I want to do.
Everyone would always say to me, well, yeah, you want to make movies, okay, what's your fallback?
Yeah,
like
yeah, everyone said what's your plan B, and I always
told them, what do you really want to do? Yeah, it's that's all they want to talk about, which, it's fine, because just, it's a hard business, and it's we're in Utah and we're nowhere where we want to be, but we're, we're practicing and we're getting there.
Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
There are like a ton of like, I don't know, like Hollywood actors or people like that they start out in like with like no income at all, and some of them, I believe it was Rambo, Sylvester Stallone,
Oh, yeah.
who was homeless.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
That's
he
awesome.
sold the script to somebody, I don't know, something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Rodney Dangerfield took him years as a comedian to finally get people to, and like he even took a break for a while, and now he's like one of the best comedians and funniest people in movies and television like ever. And like that's what I like about you guys. And see, this is how they like came to be is so Arthur knew Jimmy, and I knew Arthur a little bit. Like
Oh,
in
I
high
met
school.
Jimmy in an acting class in college.
Yes. So and then all of a sudden I'm working at my company, and as I'm working there, Arthur shows up, and then he doesn't show up. He was working there.
I was there first.
So what's going on? And he's like, nothing. I just want to make movies. I'm like, well, I'll help you do that. And he's like, okay. So we started, and we did. Was our first project you, me, and him? I
Yeah.
want to say that was it.
Yeah, that was really the first
I
thing we
really
did
want you
together.
guys to bring that back because I love those shows.
Yeah, check out You, Me, and Him. Maybe we'll put a link. We always have to put a link somewhere. But and then I think it was our first zombie movie, right?
Yes.
That we actually
Yeah.
worked together for the first time.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were filming that. Okay, well, you worked at GameStop at the time, and
I did.
I went and reserved Assassin's Creed 3 at your GameStop.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
And I was like, "Oh, this girl knows games." And then you were actually the reason that kind of got me started thinking about. And then at our job that we work at, we watch a lot of like YouTube videos and stuff, and so
we
I
work
started-
very hard.
I thought, well, what's a good way that we can constantly get views, that I can, talk about movies and games all the time, and that we could get more people to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I figured this was the perfect spot. So we held auditions, and you two were the first people in mind. Like, I don't even think you guys needed to
Up top.
audition.
Yeah.
I was just like, you worked at GameStop, and you knew things about video games that I didn't know were possible.
Things that shouldn't be known.
Yeah. And if you watch You, Me, and Him, I went to high school with Hayden for a year, and then you'll see that he was in You, Me, and Him. So if you click that, he was in You, Me, and Him with
And
me.
he sings.
And he
It's so
sings.
adorable.
We sing in it. Tim knew us in high school, and now he's helping us out. He came and auditioned, but not really auditioned, more interviewed for your kind of stuff, and he's rocking it, learning.
I believe
He
I
had-
was talking to you outside the audition.
And you learned
you
everything from
and Mike.
scratch. Yeah, you learned everything from scratch too. So good on Tim.
Little
Yeah.
protege.
Yeah, you hear his voice every
The
once in a while.
grasshopper became the master.
And then Bianca came to an improv practice one time with her friend. We started hanging out, and then I told her about this because she knew a lot about movies and stuff, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll totally come do that." Sadly, she works a lot, so
I miss her.
yeah, we all do.
When you watch this, be
Oh, I thought you said you.
we pretty much talked about ourselves, and so
What's your
tell
story?
us, yeah. Thank you. What's your story? Let us know how you got started in movies and video games. Why you like what you like, and even if you don't like these, why are you watching us? Just kidding.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
Thank you for watching us.
Thanks, Mom, who watched it, because I posted it on Facebook. They're the best.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. Talk to us a little bit, and also give us suggestions for what you would like us to talk about next week on our Big Talk.